And basically, early on, we asked a bunch of close friends to do it. And, you know, it was tough getting people to commit to something without knowing. And now it's been the opposite. Now, like, every celebrity wants to do it.
What if, like, there's two or three at night?
Well, the coolest one, we're starting to run into that.
Yeah. Tickets are on sale for KFC Radio Live. Click the link in the bio. Get yours. Come out and hang with the boys.
What's up, brother? Doing good?
Doing great. I'm a little, you know, it's depressing the day after your team loses.
What's your team?
Dolphins.
Oh, but fuck off, though, because, you know, things are going good.
Things are going good, but we'll save this for the show. But
this is a show. Let's do it.
Oh, we're starting the show. Okay, good. So, you know, when your team is being talked about in the same sentence as potential Super Bowl contenders, you got to win those big ones, and the evidence suggests that we can't.
It's like good that you hung 70 on the Broncos, but
and then the next week we lose by 20 plus points to the Bills. So it's like we just I've been surprised at sort of the defensive kind of ineptitude in some of these games, because I was kind of all in on our defense this year, and it's been a little shocking to see that we're not quite one of the elite defenses.
Are you from there?
I'm born and raised in Hollywood, Florida. Okay. So I'm a lifer, Heat fan, Dolphins fan.
Is Hollywood, Florida, like, is that a weird town?
Very.
Is it?
I was going to say, I went to every town in Florida.
It's as weird as it sounds. Hollywood, Florida.
But I went to FSU, so I had a good buddy.
My niece went there.
I had a good buddy who was from Celebration, Florida.
Oh, that's crazy. That's Disney. That's like a Disney town.
Dude, it was nuts.
Yeah.
You ever heard of it?
No.
It's like on Disney campus.
Like real life, but it's Disney.
And I went to his house.
Imagine a neighborhood built by Disney.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you would imagine.
Welcome to Celebration, Florida. And if that wasn't
crazy.
weird enough, he had 7 ferrets.
Oh.
So
that tracks. Yeah, that tracks.
Dude, I don't care where you are. Having 1 ferret is like, oh, you're in the weird town. Having 7 ferrets is like, you're from outer space, bro.
I feel like it's a prerequisite for living in Celebration.
You must have at least one.
They had a
You
ferret
must have
room.
over 2 ferrets.
It's just a ferret's room.
They just let him go.
My buddy Matt Swerdlow used to have 2 ferrets, and I slept over his place a lot, and he would let the ferrets roam at night, and it was a nightmare.
And they would just like crawl over you?
Not only would they crawl, they would nip at my toes. And I would forever be terrified. I would like literally roll the entire blanket around my body so that the ferrets could have the least amount of access.
We're talking like middle school, like, you know, like young,
middle school, yeah.
I'm thinking about like when you sleep over someone's house. It's actually a very funny topic because it's always a little bit weird when like you're at someone's house and you're like, you know, the bathroom situation's weird, the food situation's weird,
right.
You know, all that shit. And that's when I went to a normal person's house where they had like a puppy.
No, this is ferrets.
So you're like, you know, I remember being, when I first started sleepovers, it was like, you know, I'm gonna stay the night. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be scared. But if I had ferrets nipping at my toes,
ferrets, they had 7 cats. They had a dog. It was wild. It was wild. It was terrifying.
Any place you have to swaddle yourself to fall asleep?
Yeah.
Like,
by the way, ferrets surprisingly smell like shit.
No, you don't say.
Absolutely the worst smelling creatures that God's ever created outside of possums.
I think if you have anything other than a dog or a cat, I think you're weird.
Yeah. Well, I used to have buddies with snakes.
I had a camp
counselor with a giant 2 pythons, and he would let the pythons roam at night at Camp Blue Ridge.
That's how
there was a night where this python took a shit all over my bed, and it was gigantic. And I remember being so terrified because I was like, this thing could strangle me in the middle of the night. This is good therapy about in terms with the amount
ferrets,
of times
the animal. Yeah,
I've been sort of abused by animals.
Dude, I don't think I've ever thought about a python taking a dump.
Yeah.
Does it all like
white?
Come
no, it's like a
out
white.
Of it though?
It's white.
Yeah, it's like liquidy and white and filthy.
But does like his body go up? You know what I mean? Like
I've never actually watched a snake.
So you got to push.
You saw the aftermath.
I saw the aftermath. Yeah.
But you know, like just like physics of it.
Yeah.
If you're shitting on the ground, you would have to go up.
It's a good question. It's a good question. Sort of like, plane releasing fuel, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, the Dolphins defense. I don't know how we got there. We just recently hired a guy here who is a Miami fan. But prior to that, I don't think I really know any. I don't think I've ever personally known any Miami fans.
We're very ashamed to admit it.
Yeah. But, I mean, the Heat were great. Like, you had a great run with the Heat.
The Heat are still great. I mean, it's funny to me that, like, the Heat have been to the finals twice in the last, 3 years, and people still have an asterisk next to them because they always sort of overachieve and over-deliver.
Which is a good
Which is a great place.
To me, that's like, it's Pat Riley, man. It's Pat Riley. The Knicks had Pat Riley. They had one of those generational, not even generational, just all-time immortal basketball minds who you just give the keys to the car and you say, do whatever you want. You have the keys to the castle. And they fucking got rid of it. It's just
Spoelstra's like that.
Spoelstra's great. That combo. But again, because Riley was like, Riley sees these guys. It's you have a coach and a GM like that, or whatever he is.
No, heat culture is a real thing. And it's, we've got Messi now it's a fun time to be a Miami fan, but being a Dolphin fan, I was born in 81. I never got the luxury of that undefeated season and those Super Bowl victories.
When did Marino get drafted?
80.
80. Okay, so
so
your childhood,
80 or 81.
Wow,
right.
Was it 8? Somewhere between 80 and 82 is when he became.
I guess it's because of the comparisons that would come with Peyton and Brady. Like I always thought he was the generation right before that, but I guess
he was playing then.
Yeah,
like,
he played until
like
93.
But
he was, because when I was growing up, when I was sort of old enough to understand, the Dolphins training camp was across the street from my middle school, high school in Davie, Florida. And Dan had a son who went to the school, so they built the facility right there. So I would go and watch practices with Marino all the time in the early 90s. Yeah.
That's very
It was
sick.
crazy.
He was fucking... Dude, it's gotta just... Having one of those careers without a ring is just...
That sucks.
It sucks.
And I really thought... I remember believing that Jimmy Johnson, when he came, was going to deliver the Super Bowl. And then, we had Saban and we
you guys had Saban. Did he ever wasn't he like weeks? Did he leave after weeks or did he do a full year?
He left
It was
after
like 1 season, right?
2 seasons.
2 seasons was it? I thought he was one of those where it's just like, never mind, I'm going back to Bama.
No.
Or
it was pretty quick.
It was
LSU
awful.
It wasn't quite
no, we've had so much turmoil, and now we've got McDaniel, who's incredible, and you're just like, it's now or never.
Did you see that clip of him? I think it was this week, or maybe they played it this week from last week, where he's on his mic and he was like, somebody tell me if I'm an idiot, speak up here, but I think I'm just going to throw the ball on every play this drive. And it was like, and then I saw the stat sheet, it was like 10 plays for 87 yards, I think it was a field goal, but it was like,
it's very funny.
I'm open to, you can say no, but I think I'm going to throw the ball on.
He's so brilliant. He's so funny.
He's like one of our buddies, Dan Soder, is a very funny comedian. Yeah. He grew up with McDaniel, and it's so weird when your friends start doing things.
He grew up literally with McDaniel?
Like they're like middle school best friends.
No way.
Yeah. So Dan's gone to like a bunch of the games.
Oh my God.
When he was the offensive coordinator over in San Francisco, he's like, I was hanging out in the hotel room with him before where he's like, you want to know the first 15 for tomorrow?
Yeah.
And like, it must be such a weird thing. Cause like I have it to a much lesser extent with like friends who are lawyers now or doctors. Right. And I'm like, I know you're a fucking idiot. like people go to you for like financial advisors, anything like that. I'm like, I know you're dumb. I know you as a child. I know the dumb shit you do. How are you in charge of a football team now?
It's
like now you're the head of a $8 billion franchise.
Yeah, and by the way, like he openly comes off as like a stoner, which is the funniest thing ever.
Yeah,
which
like,
is exactly what Dan is.
I think we're heading into a time where like that generation is going to be head coaches or CEOs or whatever.
It's kind of like a fun inverse of like, the Bill Belichick's of the world.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't have to be
there was
like
this whole umbrella under Parcells that sort of like were these very self-serious coaches who were like, it's all about X's and O's and nothing else matters. And now you've got these guys, and I would say it's this kind of this generation, but even a little bit, you see it in what's his face, the coach of Kansas City. Like he's got that sense of humor. He's got
Andy Reid. Yeah,
Andy Reid's got that kind of like winning sensibility.
Yep.
Also, like more offensive-minded coaches seem to be like funnier than defensive.
Well, you know what? I honestly, I do. I really think there's something to that. I was thinking about this recently. I think like to be a really good offensive head coach, you almost have to be creative in a way to like come up with new shit.
That's right.
And like I think your brain probably works the way like a creative person does. And I mean, not that you don't have to scheme in defense, but I just think defense is much more like you're like an aggressive ground and pound. We're just gonna fucking kill you. And offensive guys are more like, how can I,
I would agree.
But yeah, they're more, how can we run away from the fight rather than how to start the fight?
Those are the guys who are,
as opposed to how can we start the fight?
Yeah. That's really what it comes down to.
But speaking of creative, we have to talk about Guttenberg.
Yes.
Dude, it's so awesome.
Thank you, man.
It's so much fun.
It's wild, isn't it?
It's crazy that
he goes to a lot of shows.
I'm a big Broadway guy.
I mean, I have not heard him talk about like.
Well, it was so funny because Andrew Rannells and I, did Book of Mormon together, and the thing about Book of Mormon was it was so sort of groundbreaking in that like a lot of people who didn't go to Broadway shows were like, this is the musical for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was subversive. It just kind of changed the paradigm of what musical comedy could be. And so it was like really hard to find even a reason to follow that up, which is why it took me kind of a decade to come back to Broadway.
Yeah, that if you walked away and were just like, that's my thing, I'd be
and that was kind of my plan. Like I didn't, Andrew's come back and done a couple of shows, but I didn't really have the incentive. I live in LA. I've got kids. It was really hard to sort of commit to something. And the director, Alex Timbers, sent me this script and was like, I want you to read this. Tell me what you think. I directed it off Broadway in 2006. I think you're going to like it, but let me know. I was sort of skeptical. Anything called blah, 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 the musical worries me because it just feels like it's kind of empty calories. I was like, I don't know. So I came in with a prejudice against what it was going to be, even based on the title. And I read it and I listened to the music and I was like, fuck, this is so funny.
Yeah.
And I called him up and I said, the only person I would do this with is Andrew Rannells. And he goes, well, funny you should say that. I sent the script to him too. And I'm like, wow. You motherfucker, playing us against each other. So and
you linked up with him for Book of Mormon just for your friends? Or
No, Andrew, I was involved with Mormon from like the very first workshop in 2008.
Hell yeah.
And they found, Andrew was the last person we auditioned. And he came in and just killed it as Price. And I had done workshops with 3 other dudes playing that role. And when Andrew came in, you were just like, there's nobody else. Like the way I say it is, he was the first person who intimidated me in that role. Mm-hmm. So I knew it was him. And we just had this incredible chemistry. And we were like, got to find a reason to like exploit that again and do it. So we did a workshop. We did a reading of it. And we left. It was just me, Andrew, the director, and the 2 writers, Scott and Anthony. And we were like, yeah, this feels right. And that was March of 2020. A week later, the world shut down. And it was sort of out of sight, out of mind. And last winter, Timbers calls us up and says, look, there's a window. Do you guys want to do this year? We can get this done. 20 weeks, limited run. And I was like, you know what? If not now, then when?
Yeah.
And so I said yes. And, the script.
What does that mean, a window? Just like the theater, like
basically,
all that
like,
shit aligns,
Andrew and I had.
You're both free.
Yeah, we didn't realize there were going to be multiple strikes that would make us freer than ever. But at the time, we had this like free window. Mm-hmm. We had a theater that was interested. So the pieces just fell in place.
Right.
And, the thing about the show is it's so relentlessly funny. And it's like a comedy rock concert. Every night the audience goes nuts. But what was so compelling about it, which was the thing that Book of Mormon also had, was it has so much heart.
Yeah.
It's a love letter to like dreamers everywhere. Mm. And that just felt like exciting, especially at a time when like Broadway is struggling to find itself again post-COVID. it felt like such a love letter to musical theater, to musicals in general, to comedy in general. And it's been really refreshing to see the audience respond to that.
I got that very much at it because I go to, I know, not a ton of, I've probably seen most of what's on Broadway. I see a lot. And there are some times where it's more a serious production where like a great one I saw fairly recently was Bryan Cranston and Network.
Oh, like, God, how good was that?
Like it was gorgeous. It was amazing.
Incredible.
And you guys are but like there's also a side of Broadway where it's like it's people having fun.
Yeah.
And you guys are so clearly having like a blast. And it's such a weird story.
So weird.
What'd you say
intentionally
earlier?
so.
Yeah, right.
You said something about Broadway comedy, like struggles to find its voice or something earlier. And I think that's like, it's not something typically, you know, I think of Broadway as, you know, higher society and not going to be funny.
No.
Because it's like meant to be serious.
Well, I was so excited about coming on this podcast today because I was like, this is it a podcast or
podcast?
I want to use the correct word. But I was so excited to come on today because it's like, this is the kind of audience we want on our show. Like, it's so fun to hear how many people come up to me and go, I hate musical theater. Yes. And I fucking loved your show.
That's it.
Dude, anyone who hates musical theater just hasn't been to musical
theater.
Yeah, because like here at Barstool Sports, most of the people wouldn't think are theater people.
Right.
And I've taken a handful of people. I'm like, yo, come with me to this show. I'm like, come with me to this show. And no one's ever been like, I'm mad I can't do that. Like, everyone's like, that was fucking awesome. Like, yeah,
same thing,
it's awesome. It's so much fun.
What Ben Schwartz and Tom Middle did shit for improv.
Yep.
It was like, you know, improv is the nerdy, dorky thing. And then I saw that show and I was like, that was, you know what it is I think at Barstool too is whether or not you may be a Broadway person or an improv person, I don't know, but you can just see the talent level of like, even if it's not your cup of tea, I was just like, and it turned out to be, I loved it, but I was also like, holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
These guys are incredible.
It takes a lot.
So
it's hard as an actor. Theater is by far the hardest thing I've ever been asked to do.
Really?
It's physically, vocally demanding. It just requires...
Your voice in particular during the show. You're doing a lot of
I play
voices.
20 characters. I have to literally... Andrew and I wear literally 150 hats.
That's got to be... I mean, I feel like you have to train for that.
You do.
Like,
You completely have to train for it.
Yeah.
I'm not what you would call physically fit. So I... like it was wild prepping for this show and just getting to a place where like I could even have the stamina to get through it because we're on stage for 2 hours straight with an intermission. We are our own cast of 40. We are, yet it's a two-man show. It's a two-man show. Yeah. But we play all of these characters. We're our own crew. We have all this choreography, and then we use hats to distinguish between each character. And so we're doing this ballet of hats that requires like, you know,
that's crazy. Watching that and like the secondary happening.
Yeah.
Like I would sometimes just follow either you or Andrew when you went to rearrange the hats, and I was like, that's got to be tough to keep like a secondary thing.
It's all tough. It's all so difficult, but fun.
How does a show pick, like when it's a one-man show or like a two-man show, like why not just have a full cast? Is it a money thing, or is it like you wanted to challenge yourself, or is it
the conceit of the show is that it's these two guys who have literally spent all their money to rent a Broadway theater for one night.
I see. So
to try to get a Broadway producer to give them a Broadway contract to do the show for real.
Right.
And what's so funny is like the show within the show is the most batshit crazy thing ever written.
Right.
These two guys clearly have done no research about Johann Gutenberg, the subject matter. It would be like doing a show about Alexander Hamilton and reading nothing more than he's on a piece of monetary, paper. And like, that's the limit of what they've essentially studied.
Great. See, so that is a funny premise.
So they're making up all this shit as they go, and the stakes couldn't be higher because if they don't get the funding to do the show, they're broke. So these guys have no business being on stage. And that therein lies the comedy of it, is that they're putting their hearts in their sleeves. They're doing this show with the hope that at the end of the day, somebody in the audience will say yes. And there's this great ending that I won't spoil that involves these cameos that every night come to the show. We've had everybody from like Nathan Lane to Christian Slater to John Stamos.
How does that work?
That's what I was going to ask that. I had Zachary Levi at mine.
Zach Levi did yours, yeah. Well, without telling people how the sausage gets made exactly. It's this great moment sort of at the end of the show where, you know, it's the apex of the show. These guys have put their entire dream out there, and there's this great payoff to that. And basically, early on, we asked a bunch of close friends to do it. And, you know, it was tough getting people to commit to something without knowing. And now it's been the opposite. Now, like, every celebrity wants to do it.
What if, like, there's two or three at night?
Well, the coolest one, we're starting to run into that.
Yeah.
The coolest one was we just had Steve Guttenberg, which was like my hilarious. Because so many people think the show is about Steve Gutenberg from Police Academy, which it's not.
That is
and
great.
So like getting him was like
we're doing like 3-4 levels of meta now.
So Lin-Manuel Miranda did it the other night and just got such a crazy
is it
response.
Like I'd imagine you don't have to train much for it. It's like a quick
No,
thing.
the cameos come about an hour before the show starts. We sort of walk them through. There's something on the teleprompter to show them what they have to say, and that's it.
So what happens now when someone's like, I'm coming to your show on Saturday night? It's like, well, we already got.
Well, you know who else is coming? Beyonce.
By the way,
so.
this literally happened to me last night. I went to the premiere of the new Stephen Sondheim musical, and
is that Merrily We Roll Along?
No. This is the one that's at the what's the name of the place? It was Sondheim's last musical before he died.
Oh, I know. Yes,
and it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. And Zach Quinto came up to me and told me he's coming Thursday night. And I was like, oh, he's like, maybe I can be the producer. And I'm like, we've got somebody already. But like, Matt Bomer came the other day and wanted to do it, and we had somebody. So we're starting to run into that a lot.
Should have been a day one fan, guys. Yeah. Sorry it took you so long.
Exactly.
I'd always wondered how that happens from the Netflix special from Oh Hello. And I was like, was Steve Martin just in the crowd, or was like, is that
no? So, by the way, our director directed Oh Hello.
No way,
so
really?
Same sort of principle.
Yeah.
And Gutenberg was apparently what inspired Nick and John to do Oh Hello.
Really?
They both saw the off-Broadway show and the Upright Citizens Brigade version. And I think they were just so blown away that they got
no kidding. That makes a lot of sense.
Alex to come in and direct.
Love them both so much.
Yeah.
You guys do a great job too of skewering is not the right word, but you have fun with Broadway as a whole, where you're talking about like the production and the recipe you need, what pieces. I don't want to give away jokes and stuff like that, but like what pieces make a great Broadway production, or what gets you made right now, and all that stuff.
It's so meta. It's so meta. It's the most meta thing I've ever been a part of, and it's kind of fun because it works on two levels. If you're a giant fan of Broadway, you will get all of the references. But if you're not a giant fan of Broadway, you will appreciate how much they're butchering that thing that you are always hesitant about.
Yeah.
So it really works quite well on those levels. Again, in the same way Book of Mormon sort of played for like audiences who appreciate musical theater, Trey and Matt were like students of musical theater. And so like they're writing a traditional musical that undercuts all of the elements of what you know as musical theater. So it's the same kind of principle.
You gave me one of my greatest moments as a son during the show, not during the show, right before the show, is I had a date to go to the show. They bailed, and I was just telling my mom, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go alone. And she happened to be in Connecticut. We're from Massachusetts, but she happened to be in Connecticut visiting my sister. And she's like, I'll just come. Aww. And I was like, oh, great. And like my mom is a big Broadway fan, so I like it because we used to go all the time as a kid. And I get recognized a lot with people who like my dad thinks is cool. It's sports fans and stuff like that. My mom doesn't give a shit about that. And walking into the play, I was going to get my tickets at Will Call, and the person at the box office was like, oh, hey, John. And grabbed my tickets and handed me, and like didn't ask for my ID. And just like, did the person at the box office on Broadway just recognize you? I was like, I think so. I was trying to play it cool, where I was like, I think it's crazy too. Just so you know
what this is? This is the sign that Broadway's going down the tube.
Also, like badass. I love that my ticket people like listen to Barstool. That is awesome. I'm gonna go up to them and say, yes, guys.
No.
I feel like I have nobody to talk to. Andrew literally when I'm watching Sunday football in my dressing room on YouTube, Andrew will come in and say, "Oh, you're watching sports ball again?" Like I have nobody.
I will say,
with.
at the risk of sounding, ignorant and stupid, I judged a book by its cover. I did not expect you to come in and start talking about the Dolphins' defense. I just didn't see that coming.
I'm a diehard.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I'm a diehard.
It's funny that it's like why we do that. I don't know. It's like why you can't appreciate more than one thing.
It's actually really it's been problematic because I have afternoon shows on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I came to appreciate so much being in LA and watching football at 10 a.m.
Huge.
And
you ain't
now
doing
I
that
can
here.
basically only get through the first 2 quarters, and then I'm fucked because I have to go on stage. So I'll run downstairs in, a heap of sweat.
Check the score.
And check the score, and I'll usually catch, the last 10 minutes at intermission. But it's been really frustrating getting Sunday ticket this year and being so fucked
Dude,
up.
that is something
worst.
I'm happy you're doing it on this show too, because the thought of a guy on Broadway running down to catch the 2-minute warning in the middle of intermission and then running back out there potentially they just lost the game and you're fucking fuming or they just won the game and all you want to do is call your buddy and talk about it and you got to get back out there and do
and I'm on a
is,
group chat with all my friends, so I'll be like, what did I miss? What fill me in. What last night I was at the premiere of the Sondheim show and I was literally checking my phone because we had the Sunday night football game. And I was like, fuck, I've got to get home and see this. I really didn't need to get home and watch that game. I should have missed it, but
that was one to miss. Did you are you living separate from your family for all this time?
I'm glad. I was just gonna ask the same thing.
It's such a bummer. It's
20 weeks.
It sucks.
Fucking...
So
do you do a rental place? Do you stay in another friend's house?
No, I'm staying in a rental that the theater pays for, that the producers pay for, it's great. Love this place, and the kids and my wife come out basically once a month. So they came for Labor Day. They came for the opening, which was 2 weeks ago. They'll come again in November. Then they'll come Christmas and New Year's.
How old are you kids?
I've got a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, both girls.
So they are old enough to get it too, right?
It's so, and I'm sure you've spoken to a lot of, entertainment people like me who find this, but it's rarer and rarer to shoot things in LA. Yeah. Most of the time I'm shooting in places like London or Australia most recently.
Yeah. Wow.
And so being in New York is actually better. It's more convenient and easier. I actually get to see them more than if I were shooting abroad.
Australia
Exactly. So when I was shooting Wolf Like Me in Australia, they came out for 6 weeks, and that was amazing because we got to travel and go see all these incredible places. But generally, it's really hard.
Yeah. I feel 12 and 9 is probably old enough we did a game show the other week. We did Barstool Survivor. In the office. You had to stay in the office, compete in the games, and get voted off like Survivor.
Right.
And if you made it to the end, it was Monday to Thursday. If you made it all the way. And I would have seen my kids during those days. But I'm divorced, so I still I wouldn't have even seen them every day anyway. But I told them, I'm like, I cannot leave this place for 4 days if I do well. They started crying. And I was like, they're 8 and 7. I was like, they're right, I think, about to get really it more, hard. But there are times, at the most we travel for 4 or 5 days at a time.
It's really hard.
And I'm like, if I ever had to be I got to go for 20 weeks.
It's really, look, thank God for FaceTime.
Yeah.
I speak to them every morning. I speak to them every afternoon. I speak to them every night.
Yeah, it's huge.
And it gets us through. And it's the one thing about doing this now is the technology exists that I don't feel as desperately separated from them as I am.
I wonder, are they at the age where they're getting off the FaceTime or were you?
Oh.
I don't have kids, but I have friends who have godsons like that.
It's like pulling teeth to get any information out.
Right. Yep.
So if I ask them about school, I have to ask them a bunch of leading questions, or else I'll get nothing. And even with the leading questions, it's the bare minimum answers. So it's how was science today? what did you do? Yeah. And they'll just give me like one phrase.
But I'm going to stand up for those kids. I'm going to stand up for kids who give the one-word answers. I know it's all of them.
Yeah, I was going to say every single one of them.
So you're standing up for children writ large.
Because if you're an adult who's given longer than that, they're just ready. They know. Like, if you ever ask an adult, like, how was your day? And they give you 10 minutes on their day.
But you know what's really sweet? You know what's actually really sweet? They ask me about every show.
Really?
How did tonight's show go? What like, tell us about it. They were really pissed that they missed John Stamos. They're like unhealthily obsessed with Full House.
Really? Isn't that cool? Or is it Full House or Fuller House?
They're obsessed with Full House.
The original?
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
They were not fans of Fuller.
I don't think many people were.
But Stamos has his memoir coming out. And
it's great. I've been reading it. Yeah, he sent me a copy.
Who did he find in bed with his wife?
From Full House?
No. It was someone who was very. It was.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
I just saw the headline. I didn't read it yet,
dude. By the way, I mean, if someone is cheating on John Stamos, none of us got a shot.
Yeah. By the way, like
that means like nobody can hold down anybody.
John is one of the like. I don't know if he's a vampire. Like he doesn't.
Tony Danza.
You know what?
Shit!
By
the way, who my
era.
kids are also obsessed with because they've been watching that show too.
Who's the boss?
Really?
Oh, they're obsessed with Who's the Boss.
So are you
not wife,
making
girlfriend.
your kids watch this? You introduce it.
My
and
wife and
I
have basically made it our goal to give them a pop cultural education.
Smart.
That will give them the foundation for a great adulthood. So their favorite movies are Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller.
Wow.
Their favorite.
Are they
shows.
watching new shit though? Do you? Like,
they're watching new shit, but
that?
they like action. No, we don't ban it, but like,
but it's just better.
They appreciate. Like they're the ones who say to us, "God, you guys had such better stuff than we did," which is amazing.
I'm trying with my kids, and it's
the only thing that they didn't love that pissed me off and like almost caused us a real family rift was the Goonies. They really didn't get it, and I was like, "You guys have to understand."
My dad did basically the same thing with me, which is funny thinking back on it, where it's like it's kind of like an experiment you're doing. You're like, can I just make him me?
Yeah,
it kind of is. Right?
Yeah, like if I just give him exactly what I got, will he be me?
By the way, they're watching Growing Pains now, and they fucking love it.
But see, I also feel like every generation probably does this.
Oh yeah,
but I feel like we're actually right this time.
No, we are.
We are. And I know every generation does this too, but I feel like we really are. Like I do think there was an argument to be made that like at one point the younger shit did start getting better than the older shit just because of like it was a new medium and it was a new technology, it was new everything. And now we kind of went the other direction where it's like, no, this really was better, I promise you.
What's so fascinating is like watching like my niece and nephew they're not obsessed with like shows right now. Their favorite shows are Friends and The Office.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we actually just talked about that when we just had Ari Shafir comedian on, and we were talking about how like Suits is like this big moment.
Right.
And we're like, I was saying how it's funny that when shows that were created when they had big writing staffs and the writers were on set a lot and all this stuff, they'll get on streaming and they'll go crazy popular and people will be like, this is great. And it's like, yeah. How do they do this? Well, they used to pay everybody.
Yeah, they had talented people working hard on it. They weren't churning out fucking garbage.
That's fucking right.
10 times a year. And
Suits, when Suits was on TV, it was a very good show. It was very popular. But like no one was
nothing like
this. Is amazing.
No.
It was.
I think it's like become the most streamed show ever.
Yeah,
which is so wild to me.
Right. And obviously
but also a testament to like, like we've lost a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Like we're not. You know, Seinfeld. I grew up with Seinfeld. I grew up with Cheers. I grew up with like Frasier. Frasier's back, but like those kinds of shows, they don't make them anymore.
I remember reading a tweet from a writer whose name escapes me now during the strike, where she was like, "It's actually great that the strike is happening because now I'm finally meeting the people I'm writing for because they weren't paying for writers to go to set." And so, like that, like that's hard. Right? There's no connection. There's no nothing.
You don't know who you're writing for. You don't know what you're supposed to be writing like. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That to me is just like, that means it's a lesser quality product than it was. So, maybe I'm the old man yelling at the cloud, but I think there's a real like tangible answer to it. And you know what I've missed the most is. Like, I remember sitting down and watching basically whatever my parents wanted to watch, but I was just happy to be watching TV. It was just like whatever's on at 7:30, whatever's on 8 o'clock right before bedtime. Where we all watched Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then we watched like one of the NBC.
I was fucking obsessed with Next Gen.
I loved it.
My buddy Seth and I, Seth Gable and I, literally during COVID, we went back and watched all of Next Generation.
It's incredible.
That show holds up so well.
It's all like allegories and all this smart shit. But it was just, my dad liked Jeopardy. We watched Star Trek.
Jeopardy all the time.
And then
with my
we
dad.
would watch, one of whatever the 8 o'clock, Spin City, Just Shoot Me, whatever that was. And now it's like they all have their own iPads. They all have their own likes and dislikes and can access all of it. And there's no let's all watch this together because
sports is the last communal.
Yeah, it really
it's
is.
the last communal watch.
And
a little bit of movies.
I'd
a little bit with movies, but still
a little bit like Barbenheimer this summer.
Yeah,
sort
it was
of
huge.
like
It was huge.
I'd argue sports even lost it, and I felt that when everyone started doing their own streamings or their own. Because everything's a little like where it still doesn't feel super communal. Because like if I'm following,
I'm going to interrupt. You have a super hard out in 2 minutes. I was just about to think. I was like, we are rolling right now. We could do this for like 2 more hours, but they're telling me you have to go. So.
Where it's just like I'm 30 seconds behind because I'm watching on ESPN Plus and one person's watching on cable.
And that honestly, I used to think that was silly, but that like 30 seconds makes a difference.
There was a while. It was right before COVID where. I would have people over every Sunday to watch football together, and I would have them stay and watch Game of Thrones after. And
that's great.
It was the fucking greatest thing.
Yeah.
I would get these big groups, and we would all just make a day of it. I'd order pizza, wings, and we would just have that communal experience. And I want us to get back to that. And
there's a difference too. It's like sports is cool, but it's very passive. You can be on your phone. You can check in and out. You can cheer, yell. You're talking. If you can get all your friends to do a movie night or watch a show together, and then you talk about it afterwards, or I love that, and that's just gone.
Let's do it. You're here for 20 weeks.
I'm here for 20 weeks. I got no family, guys. Let's fucking do it.
You're gonna get Josh on the couch fucking in between shows.
I hope we get back to that. I think we will. I think
that's a great thing about the theater. I think the theater.
That's why I came back.
Yeah,
I missed that communal experience. Doing a film and doing TV is amazing, but it's so much lonelier than performing for an audience where you get that instant gratification. Yeah. You get that sense that you've actually done something that has affected them in real time through laughter, through tears, whatever it is. That is such a unique experience. And you can't replicate it in any other form in our medium. Yeah. And I fucking love that about it.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask one question before you go?
Totally.
I don't know. I want to know if it was my narcissism or if people who got tickets from the show are always in those seats. I felt like either you or Andrew kept looking over where I am. And I was like, are they looking? I didn't think anyone knew who I was.
That's so funny.
But I didn't know if I was in a seat where a reviewer or where people usually are.
No, in fact, our director has been so kind of clear with us that we need to spread our looks everywhere. I think sometimes we sort of I think sometimes it's literally eye line, so I'll just sort of look straight out and it'll probably hit wherever that is. Yeah. Because I find myself staring in a certain direction, but it's not conscious. It's totally subconscious.
I was walking out. I was like,
"That's
to my
so
mom,
funny."
I was like, "Did you think they were looking over in our direction?"
I've never
She was
made
like,
that
nope.
observation.
And I was like, "All right."
That's so funny. It's definitely not. I'm definitely not consciously doing it. I apologize to the rest of the audience for not looking your way.
One last question. Let's say you're at a show, and let's say Taylor Swift says she wants to be the producer in the show.
Yeah.
And who else shows up and asks for it as well?
I mean, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
It would be Taylor? Beyonce and Taylor Swift both show up the same day. I want to
apologize to Oprah now for having to postpone your Cameo, but
Taylor would be the one.
We live in a Swift world.
All right, very last thing, too. We're already 1 minute past. What's the craziest thing someone can open at during a show? Because I was at Hadestown, and someone next to me brought because the Applebee's is right there. Someone brought their leftover calamari and just popped the top. And
he was horrified. We actually had a segment on here that was make Broadway high society
we
again.
Had a pretty big celebrity at Book of Mormon smoke one of those very early e-cigarettes that made this actress look like Cruella de Vil. So it was like this long cigarette, and she was smoking it in the third row during the show, and that was one of the weirdest things.
Love it, bro.
Calamari beats it.
Calamari beats that.
I had to tell. I was like looking around at people. I was like, I don't know this person. I'm not with that.
Dude, guys, so much. We could have done come see the show, man.
Yeah, I would love to see it.
I'll go see it.
Let me know when you want to go.
Yeah. Gosh, thank you
so much fun, guys.
All right, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. Click that button.
Or I'll cut off my finger.